Hey folks, Mark here. We're still doing how much, and last time I spoke about the offense emphasis that can get you in trouble because it basically leaves the guy still able to attack. Now I'm going to take the how much approach from a different standpoint, and that is from the legal, how the prosecutor is going to view it. Now, one of the things that you're looking at is that people know that is an offensive action, all right? And they see it, and they're going to be very easily swayed that you overdid it. And that is kind of a complicated problem when it comes to self-defense. Because basically, while you are allowed self-defense, the best analogy that I've ever come up with is a dated 1970s science fiction flick called Logan's Run, where people are put to death basically at 30 years old, and yet they send them to this event, and it's called the carousel, and they float up, and they're told that if they, reach this one thing, they will be rejuvenated. They'll be reborn. Okay? Well, fact of the matter is they go up and go and burn out. It's the promise of rejuvenation that keeps them going and in line. Right? Now, I really have to say that I find that to be the case when it comes to self-defense, because we are told that legally we have the right to self-defense. In practice, however, it's more of the flame out. Now, by the way, in the movie, the guy asks how many people have rejuvenated, and he's told 0. It's not quite that bad, but it is pretty damn close. That what you have is that you have prosecutors who decide that if there's violence, somebody's got to pay. Somebody's wrong, right? And it really gets kind of complicated in the fact that if you defend yourself, they're going to look at it like, no, you committed a crime. Now, this is one of those things that you have to be careful. First, you need to understand and be careful about this, is when you admit to self-defense, that is an affirmative defense. You are admitting you committed what is normally a crime. Okay? You said, I did it. Okay? And that's really important. That they don't have to prove it anymore. You said it. Okay? So then it's not the burden of proof, but that's what people understand, shifts to you. Because when you say, I did it, but I did it because of these circumstances, and that makes it legal, right? It then becomes, hi, welcome back. We missed you. It becomes, you have to articulate, you have to explain why you weren't breaking the law and why you shouldn't be held accountable for this. Now, this takes us back to this action, right? And when the jury sees you doing that, when they see these overtly aggressive moves, you claiming self-defense doesn't really look good. And you're back. And we so missed you. Sit down. And realizing that the prosecutor, if you're only doing this, he's going to sell that as you were beating this dude. It wasn't self-defense. You were throwing him a beating. Okay? And that's not going to be a really hard sell to most juries. All right? Now, one of the things that you'll often encounter to get into this mess is that the police won't arrest both people who were fighting. They will arrest the winner of the fight, because that's normally the person who was the aggressor. Okay? So it's a good rule of thumb, but it isn't always the case, especially when it comes to self-defense, but you will be treated as such. So if you defend yourself aggressively, what they're going to do is that they're just going to look at it and go, hey, it's going to be easier for let the DA figure this shit out, right? And that's where you get that the system is stacked against self-defense. And you need to know this going in. But once you get into the situation, right, you have to keep in mind, and I mean, I'm going to quote Clint Overland again, which is the speed equals innocence. It is easier to defend yourself saying that it was self-defense, affirmative defense and all that, if you didn't go 8 or 9, 10 times on the guy. Now, in your adrenalized state, that's what you want to do. That was a cattail, by the way. You get excited. You see the guy, he's a threat. He's still in front of you. You do what you think works. Okay? And again, you don't rise to your expectations. You drop to the level of your training. If your training says boom, 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 that's how you stop somebody. That's what you're going to do. Right? It's up to you to find some other way to end the situation without using quote unquote excessive force. Now, another problem we're dealing with here is that self-defense is a very narrow definition, okay? It's not a martial arts term. It is actually a legal term. And when you claim it, you have to, move into that territory. But that also takes understanding what it is. And there are very, very narrow boundaries. And a lot of times you can cross the line into what is deemed excessive force by the prosecutor. All right? So, for example, if somebody's attacking you, you can stop the threat. And if he falls down, that's great. You've stopped the threat. What you can't do is kick the dude while he's down. That they'll prosecute you for. Same thing of shooting somebody and he falls down and you shoot him while he's on the ground. That is going to be excessive. There's a variety of ways that you can cross this line. But looking at it and understanding that the knowledge people have about that, they understand that is an attack. They understand that is, an aggressive act. And that's what the prosecutor is going to use to sell. All right. Now, part of the idea of, offense, defense, and then neutralizing the guy's ability to attack is that you can do a lot of stuff that doesn't look aggressive, right? It doesn't look like you're hitting and being aggressive. For example, there are a number of times that I handled an incoming attack by going like this, right? Now, that is deflecting his attack. This is actually a hit, right? I'm palm striking the guy in a really uncomfortable place. But what it appears to be is the guy attacked me, right? And I went, oh no! And then he fell down. Okay. Elbows are really useful for, an attack's coming in and you go, whoa! Right? Now, there was an elbow strike there. You can do this stuff that will cause an interruption to his ability to attack, but doesn't necessarily look aggressive. And it takes somebody like me, right, who knows what, like, oh yeah, look at that. He did that, and that, to spot what is aggressive, right? And you do need to do something to stop the guy, and that requires some degree of offense, right? But you don't want to overdo it. You don't want to rely entirely on offense. Now, a lot of the stuff that will take away his ability to attack doesn't look offensive, right? And it can or it cannot hurt. It depends. I mean, if I grab the guy's arm and pull him over the side or, off balance him, that doesn't look particularly aggressive, right? If I pull him and go boom, 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 that does look aggressive, right? On the other hand, if I grab and pull, move in, right? This is way more powerful than this, right? But if I move in, I grab him, I move in with that hit. If that tends to catch his attention, and then I turn it into a shove, right? And I push him down on the ground. That doesn't look nearly as offensive as beating the hell out of him repeatedly. But understand that whatever you do that looks offensive, doesn't matter how effective it is or not, by the way, but, those are the things that if you do too much of that, that's what you're going to get in trouble. Now, remember I talked about the video where the guy threw several really good punches and the dude just, oh, okay, and stepped back? Right? Now, from a prosecutorial standpoint, the guy who got hit may have been a really drunken asshole, right? But what they're going to do is hold the guy who's doing the hitting, they're going to arrest him, right? And they're going to prosecute him, right? Now, this is where you run into the problem of what you do has to be consistent with self-defense, not necessarily winning a fight.